You are listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. I'm Kyle Bryant.
And I'm Sean Baumsart. Together, we're navigating life with disability.
What's up, Sean? How's it going,
What's happening? Life's good. Doing great. I'm ready for the holidays here.
Yeah, baby. So this is episode 31. Which means that we've done this for a year now. We did it.
Woo! I need some champagne.
1 year of recording this show. Sean and I are the Two Disabled Dudes, and we have had a blast this year.
We are just so incredibly grateful for listeners like you and the community that we've been able to be a part of. We've had so many guests over the year, from nutritionists to psychologists, athletes to authors. We're just so grateful for all of them.
However, it's folks like you that keep us recording. Feedback from our listeners is the fuel that keeps us going. We often receive texts, emails, Facebook comments, and the like that encourages us to keep producing the show. Today, with our anniversary episode, we invited some loyal listeners to join us on the phone.
So we're going to feature some more of that listener feedback. This episode is going to have a handful of our loyal listeners who we've recently invited to join us on the phone. So here we go. Let's do this.
On the line, we have our friend Dan Parker King, who has been listening to the podcast, and we want to grill him a little bit about the podcast today. What's up, Dan?
Hey, Kyle. Hey, Sean. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks for being on.
Good stuff. Well, Dan, so first of all, for all of our listeners, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. My name is Dan Parker King. I'm a civil engineer. I manage a department of engineers who primarily focus on transportation projects, which is like rail and highway kind of stuff. But also a big part of what I do is provide kind of ADA access to those sites and make sure that, wheelchairs and, people that have impaired seeing, all those kinds of disabilities can make it onto like a train station or, access to a site.
Oh, that's cool. So, we know who to blame when, like, one of our friends can't get on a train or whatever, right?
That's me. It's probably my fault. No, the funny thing when I first started out and like grading a site, and it's a pain to make something flat that's steep and make it so a wheelchair can get onto a site. And I remember kind of working and having trouble with it. And then that weekend I went and hung out with you, and we went to like a beer festival, and it was all wood chips, and we had your wheelchair, and it was like both of us were just like trying to get through this, and everybody was helping out and stuff, but it was kind of like karma saying, get back to work. It's not hard for you. It's hard for people with wheelchairs. So quit your whining. And I was able to work my way through it.
So why have you, we have 30 episodes now. That's pretty good that you've heard, almost 30. So why do you listen? Why do you keep coming back?
I like listening to podcasts in general to just kind of improve myself and, listen to hear somebody else's perspective. And your podcast is no different, but the bonus is listening to you guys, I actually do kind of like you, Kyle, so it makes it enjoyable to kind of hear your stories and kind of hear what you've been up to and, kind of check in on your life is what the added bonus is.
Nice. All right. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what your favorite moment from the podcast was this year.
Okay. I think I wrote a couple things down, but I think my favorite of your guests was Tom Hamilton, who was just this extremely motivated. I think he was in the finance industry, but he's just kind of somebody that gets things done. And it's always interesting to hear from somebody like his perspective on, how he tackles problems and how he ends up getting something done when, there's not a clear idea of what he needs to do. So he'll just sit down and kind of break it into smaller pieces.
Tom is an incredibly driven person, and we are really, really fortunate to have him on our team.
Another favorite thing I had about your podcast, in addition to the guests, was the stories that you guys have. And the one in particular I was remembering was when Kyle had a delivery guy come, and he gave him the choice because he didn't have a tip for him. He said, euros or quarters, right? And I love that. Just kind of, I can imagine him just like setting those out on the table and almost like a game show or something. He just needed like a mystery box or something.
Yeah.
But it was a really funny story, and then turned out he didn't even need a tip because he could have done it through the app. So a total Kyle thing.
Idiot!
Like,
what are you doing? Yeah. So Dan, I know that you used to do a podcast with some friends. Can you tell us about that podcast that you used to do?
It was terrible. Oh my God. We had one called the Robot Noise Hour. I think it's been taken down. I've tried to find some of them just to make sure that there's no record of it. But, really no structure. It would go on for an hour, sometimes hour and a half.
All right, Dan. Well, thanks for sharing with us today and coming on and talking about the podcast a little bit. And you know what? Thanks for listening. I always enjoy the text that you send right after you hear the episode. And, it's just nice to know that people are actually listening to what we have to say. So really, really appreciate you listening.
All right, man. Have a good day.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Bye. All right, on the phone with us right now, we are honored to have our friend Heidi Behr. Heidi, welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be with you guys today.
Awesome, Heidi. Well, we really appreciate you listening, and we've gotten a lot of really great feedback from you on social media, and we just wanted to hear about you first of all. Introduce yourself to our listeners, and what do you do?
Well, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I live in Orlando, Florida. I'm married to Mark Eglin, one of the owners at Cat Trike, and that's how I found out about you guys.
This reminds me of how Heidi and I became friends. Kyle and I were both in Florida last year at the Fair Energy Ball and some other festivities that particular week. And it was the first time I'd been there, first time I was, able to be a part of all this stuff. And right before the big ball, you and Mark live a couple hours away from Tampa. You needed a hotel room to kind of freshen up with, change, iron, do whatever you wanted to do. And that was the first time you and I met. Kyle was like, hey, Mark and his wife need a place to freshen up. Are you cool with that? And so Mark and this lady come in and I'm like, oh, hey, go ahead. Here's the iron, whatever you need. So.
Yeah, just when is the shower free? Yeah, that was awesome because before that I had known about you obviously as Kyle's great buddy, and that you guys had done the Race Across America together, and I had seen pictures of you, and I'm like, when am I going to get to meet Kyle's cute friend? And so turns out we all get to meet each other in a hotel room.
We all get to be in the room for a couple hours. Yeah, that was amazing. There's nothing about getting close real fast. There's no better way to get real close real fast than sharing one bathroom.
All right, Heidi, so you let us know. We've been in touch over email. You let us know what your favorite moment from this year was. This is our 1 year anniversary episode, and we're kind of looking back at the year and seeing what we did. And Sean, did you want to set up that clip that Heidi told us about?
Yeah. Heidi was referring to episode 001, so our second release. It was really our first big episode, and in this particular episode, we both had a little bit of a story about traveling, and Kyle told a story about how he went, I believe, into New York City to meet some friends, and he took a train from Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, and from there...
It was Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay. It was a year ago. Anyway, so he went into D.C., took a train to D.C., and then from there was going to use a cab or Uber or whatever was available. And it just so happened that when he got off the train, he first saw a taxi cab, so he opted to get in a taxi cab in order to drive him to the dinner place. And, well, let's just pick up the recording or the story from there.
From the train station in Washington, D.C., I can either like get a cab or an Uber. This time I chose to just grab a cab. It was right there. I was like, all right, I'll just get in. So the driver did not speak any English. And not only that, but it was very clear that he was not interested in helping me with my wheelchair. And so I'm like putting my chair in the back and like trying not to fall on the ground. Jeez. And some nice person comes up and just like helps me take it apart and puts it in the car and whatever. So I get in and I'm like, all right, 1100 6th Street. And so I'm, whatever, on my phone and stuff as we're going. We get there. And I look around. He's like, here we are. I look around. I'm like, this is not where we're supposed to be. So I look at my phone. I try to show him, like, this is not it. He's like, no, this is it. We're here. I'm like, no, dude. And it got to the point where I was like, all right, whatever. I don't want to argue anymore. So I'm like, okay. So he pulls my chair and my wheels out. They're all taken apart and puts them on the ground. I step out of the car and, like, I expect him to be like, all right, how do you do this? Like, show me how to put the wheels on or whatever. It was clear once again that he was not interested in helping me. So I sat down on the ground and I'm like, all right, thanks, dude. And he gets in his car and drives off. And I'm sitting on the ground with my chair all taken apart, whatever. It's fine. Like, I put it together and get in my chair, and I'm not even in the place that I wanted to be. So from there, I called an Uber.
Oh, my gosh.
The guy was super nice, helped me with everything, took me to where I wanted to go, and like, oh my gosh, and so I finally got there, but it was just like, okay, I don't think I'm ever taking a cab again. I'll do Uber from now on.
Heidi, what was it about that particular story that struck you or that has stuck with you over the course of 30 different episodes in the year of us recording?
This story to me was so incredible, and it was such a great kickoff story, I think, for your guys' podcast, because you're talking about how you get to choose to live, right? Which is so powerful, and this was you, Kyle, choosing how to react in a moment that was just like so stunning, right? This guy's like not actually going to help you with your wheelchair. I mean, you were laughing about it, and like you said later, you're like, well, it wasn't exactly completely funny in the moment, but you were able to look back on it, and even in the moment, decide like how you want to be, right? And so that to me was just so powerful, the ability to choose in the moment of how I want to be, given that I have this situation. You're not letting the situation define you.
Yeah,
and I think that is just so powerful.
Heidi, I really appreciate that, because that's, I mean, kind of the point of obviously that whole episode and the whole podcast, and like how we try to be, right? Yeah. And so, I really appreciate you picking out that story, even though it's pretty freaking hilarious. It really has a pretty deep meaning to what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. And I think, when I said in the beginning that I'm a licensed clinical social worker, I have a private counseling practice here in Winter Park, Florida, and the name of my business is Feel Peace Now. And I named my business Feel Peace Now because I really believe that no matter what's happening in someone's life, we have a choice about how we get to feel. We get to choose our thoughts. Once we recognize what's going on, once we recognize maybe that we're reacting or triggered to react in a certain way, we can slow ourselves down and actually choose peace as our compass. And or we can choose to laugh, or we can choose, there's a lot of different choices we can have. And I think you guys are just doing such an incredible job for not just only the community of folks who are dealing with disease or disability, but for everybody. I mean, this podcast is not only for people who are dealing with a physical or difficulties, but it's just it's so applicable to so many people, and that's why I love sharing it and encouraging my friends to listen to it. And I'll tell them it doesn't hurt that you guys are funny and smart. Yeah. Well, I think you guys help wake people up to the fact that, there's we have all kinds of people around us that are living with all kinds of things, and some things we can see, right? Some things we can see with our eyes. We can see, like Kyle, I can see when I meet you that you're in a wheelchair. Right. And then, Sean, you've spoken about this. You guys have talked about this in the early episodes and off and on, right? That sometimes you're going through an airport or you're doing whatever, and you've been stopped by getting on a plane because somebody thought you were intoxicated because of your gait, because of the way you were walking, right? And so looking at you standing up someplace, right, someone could see and say, like, hey, there's a tall, good-looking guy. He looks awesome. And then when you move with some degree of difficulty depending on how your body's doing right at that moment, right? So, but no one knows what's going on in any person at any time. Somebody might have, whether it's depression or sorrow or fear or anxiety. And so how we choose to live your podcast is applicable to everybody. It's not just somebody dealing with a physical disability.
I love that. And Heidi, we really appreciate you spreading our podcast to your friends and stuff. And I follow your Instagram posts. Is that the best way to follow you?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm so my Instagram handle is Heidi Feel Peace Now, and it's all crammed into one word, right? And then I have my Facebook page is Feel Peace Now. It's a Facebook page, and I'm on Twitter, Heidi Behr, nice. HeidiBehr. So I cross-post to all of those formats once a day, usually.
I just wanted to say that, like, if any of the listeners out there want to get a daily dose of life is about how we react, and to react peacefully. I love following your Instagram posts because I get that daily. Like, I wake up and I check my phone, right? I'm still laying in bed and I check my phone, and immediately I can remind myself to react peacefully because of your posts.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, well, we're all doing our part. And, you guys, is the last episode I just finished listening to with Paul Avery, and it was so beautiful. And he did such a fantastic job sharing that, we all have ways to contribute in the world. And I believe that our mission on Earth is we are designed for and created to embody joy. And whatever we're interested in, whatever causes us to be fascinated, or whatever we're passionate about, or whatever we're curious about, it's good for us to pursue those things, And it doesn't matter what else is happening with our bodies or our minds. We have this possibility to choose every single day what we want to do and how we want to be, and we just move forward a little bit or move forward a lot depending on how the day is,
all of this sort of train of thoughts reminding me of a principle in a book I'm reading right now by Mark Manson. It's called The subtle art of not giving an F word.
An FUC. Yeah.
Have you seen that book or have you read it?
Yeah, my goddaughter Nora was reading it last year, and she's like, "Heidi, you've got to read this." That's one of my favorite words.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, one of the main principles of the chapter I just read last week or a couple days ago, he really talked about, there's a lot of stuff that happens in life that's really not your fault, and we get that. Mm-hmm. However, everything in your life is your responsibility. If something goes wrong, it's not your fault, but how you respond to it, how you react, how you handle it, how you move forward, or how you don't move forward, it's all your responsibility in how you respond to those things that may or may not be your fault. And that was such a powerful concept. And obviously it's something we all know. We've all kind of lived with that mantra in a different phrase or different words, but I really like the way he put it. It may not be your fault, but it is definitely your responsibility, and I really appreciate that thought.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That is fantastic.
So I one more question just to put you on the spot, and I'm afraid I already know the answer. But let's assume Kyle and I were starting our own little fan clubs. Would you be a part of Team Kyle or Team Sean?
Oh, man, yeah.
Oh!
Talk about on the spot.
Well, I've long been a fan of Kyle, but I'm also a fan of you, Sean.
Well, like I said,
I just started following you on Instagram. I found your website. So,
that's why I'm afraid I know the answer, because I know you and Kyle go back much longer than you and I, and of course, then there's Mark. You get him involved in the picture, and I know and Kyle share quite a bit of history. So it's cool. Yeah. You can be part of King Kyle.
Yep.
I still love you.
I'm a fan of you too.
Kyle 1, Sean 0.
I'll be on both.
All right.
Well, this has been a real pleasure, you guys.
Yeah, Heidi, thanks so much for sharing your perspective and for listening and just being a source of strength in.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate your friendship so much, and Sean, it's been good to get to know you more, and I just love the work that you guys are doing in the world, and I love that. That, just like what you say at Ride Talk, feel like everything that you guys are doing, everything that the community is doing for research moves the needle, one step, gets it just a little bit farther along towards this cure. And it's making such a difference to so many people, not just to the FA community, but to other disease communities. And like we just talked about, this work, this podcast is making a difference in the world for everybody, just helping everybody get that message of, your perspective in life matters. Every day, our perspective matters. We get to choose how we want to be. And I like to try to point my compass towards peace, love, and joy, because that's what makes me feel happiest. And I like that that's what you guys do, too.
Again, that was Heidi Behr. You can follow her encouraging posts on Instagram at Heidi Feel Peace Now, all one word. Okay, Kyle, who do we have next?
All right, we are here with a friend, Nygel, who has been a loyal listener all year. And Nygel, we really appreciate you listening to the podcast. Welcome to the show.
What's up, Nygel?
Hey, thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Sean. It's good to be here with you. And like I said, I've enjoyed listening since the beginning.
Awesome, man. Well, Nygel, how about you introduce yourself to the listeners? And because, Sean and I know you, but no one else does, so the floor is yours.
Okay. Briefly, like I say, my name is Nygel Lenz. I am 43. I have Friedreich's ataxia. Since my symptoms started around the 11, and And currently, I live with my wife and my dog in a house in Clearwater. I am a professor. I teach criminal justice classes. I do that mostly online or completely online. So that's what I do for a living. And we enjoy going to the beach, that sort of thing.
And Nygel, I know that I've seen a lot of pictures of your dog on Instagram. You guys seem to have a lot of fun with. What kind of dog do you have?
She is a pug, and we love to take her everywhere we go. She's the team mascot for the Ride Taxi team.
Woo!
And yep, some lovely outfits. She goes to the dog park.
All right, well, Nygel, we wanted to ask you about your favorite moment from the podcast this year. What do you like about the podcast and what keeps you coming back?
What I like the most probably is the two of you with the funny banter they have, the ongoing stories, and that sort of thing. But the guests, I certainly enjoyed hearing from Ron Bartek, Paul Avery, but also I think one guest in particular was psychologist Dr. Dan Gottlieb, and I really enjoyed his story about how he became paralyzed and had become somewhat disenchanted with what he had been doing for a living, but and in that hospital bed was feeling depressed, like a burden, and actually had, I believe he said he felt like he wanted to die. So that was, hard to listen to, but also somewhat understandable. And he mentioned that a nurse came to him asking him for help with a problem she'd been having, and he realized, hey, I still have my mind. I can still listen. I still have a lot to do in this world. And I thought that was, a really powerful thing.
Oh, absolutely, Nygel. A powerful story indeed. In fact, it's one we'd like to play back for our listeners today.
One night, I was in ICU, and of course, all I wanted to do was die. And a nurse came up to me. I couldn't even see her face because my head, neck, and chest were immobilized. And she came up behind me, and she wanted to talk to me. She just wanted me to listen to her tale of loss and her tale of suffering and her wondering if she could live with all this pain. And I listened, and I could feel her suffering. And, she didn't care about my broken body. She just wanted me to listen to her and maybe even care for her. At the end, I sent her to a therapist. I recommended someone, and she thanked me. And then I closed my eyes and said, I can live with this. Yeah. She showed me that I had value in this world. Everybody said I had value in this world, but I didn't believe them. She showed me by asking something of me that I learned that my value can be addressed just through deep listening and compassion and caring. That alone changes people for the better, and I had the ability to do that. We all do.
All right, and that is episode 22 with Dr. Dan Gottlieb. If anyone wants to go back and listen to that one, it was a really powerful conversation. That's what we try and bring to the table here on the Two Disabled Dudes podcast.
It is what you bring. Every time, I mean, you bring your own stories, but you also bring other people in, you bring the experts in, and what more could you want?
Awesome, man. Well, Nygel, thanks so much for sharing your perspective today. And, we really appreciate it. Sean, before Nygel goes, did you have anything else to discuss with him?
No, I'm the same thing, Nygel. I really appreciate you listening, for engaging with us on social media throughout the year, and really just being a part of the show. Even though this is the first time we've actually been able to record your voice and get some feedback from you. Thank you for everything you're doing to help us spread the awareness and just do what we can to impact our worlds.
Hey guys, you're obviously welcome, but keep it up. I mean, we want to hear more.
All right, next up is a good friend of mine. We've got Tyler Porter coming on the line. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
What's up, Tyler? Thanks a lot.
We're glad you're here. And Tyler and Kyle have not met, but Tyler and I are pretty good friends. In fact, we share the same workspace 7 days a week, or I guess just 5 days a week. Tyler, real quick, will you introduce yourself? Tell us about you, what you have going on in your life, and maybe how you and I are connected.
Yeah, so as you said, my name is Tyler Porter, and I think Sean and I have known each other sort of from a distance through our company for, 8 or 9 years now, I believe. But really the last year and a half, 2 years, we've been working together a lot more closely. We both serve as trainers in our company, and we do a lot of training, everything from new hire orientations through leadership development training and all sorts of things in between. So I would say really over the last year and a half, 2 years, we've gotten a lot closer, and I've gotten to see what a quality human being Sean is, first and foremost, but also
all right, let's just stop there. That's good. Let's just end. Okay, well, thanks for being on the call.
And yeah, so over this past 18 months or 2 years, I don't remember exactly how long it's been, to be honest, Sean, but I've just really come to appreciate your mind and your counsel towards me and all of that. So we've become quite good buddies, I would say. And as far as myself personally, I have a beautiful wife and a lovely little girl who's about 1.5 years old now. And so I used to have hobbies. Now I have a toddler. And that's kind of how that goes for me right now.
Nice. So, Sean, you guys told me earlier that, in fact, Tyler is your supervisor. So, Tyler, my question to you is, is part of the reason that you listen to the podcast just to keep an eye on Sean and make sure he's staying in line with his message and stuff?
Absolutely. I need to make sure that he's not, getting out of line at all. No, I'm joking. I just became interested because, we're a pretty tight-knit department, and we like to support all of each other's endeavors, and we talk a lot. And when he told me he was starting to do this thing, and he kind of told me about some of the preliminary meetings you guys had, and I just became very, very interested. It sounded to me like something that would not only be valuable for the FA community, but also really valuable as a sort of transcendent topic for anybody who needs sort of a mental exercise, I guess you could say.
So, Tyler, we're curious, as somebody that's been listening off and on throughout the year, or, listened to probably most of our episodes, what are some things that stick out to you?
I think that a lot of it speaks to just the mental barriers that we all have, and the desire to improve ourselves and push ourselves. And I think, as you guys say, live with urgency. I love that idea, and I think it's really something that resonates with me a lot. Especially having a small child now, a lot of that stuff. It's the time is now, man. You can't put things off when you have little kids or really anything. I mean, that should be the message overall, is why put things off at all, ever? Doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know if you talked about it on the podcast, Sean, or if we just talked about it in conversation, but you had mentioned one time, it was actually right when you first got diagnosed, and you chose to take the stairs rather than the elevator because who knows how many times you're going to be able to take the stairs again. And just being able to embrace like that right now mindset, I think it has been really valuable. And every time I listen to your guys' show, it reminds me to think in those terms. And it's always a good reset for me, or a way to recharge the battery.
What is, we're curious about maybe a particular moment or episode or story or guest or something that has struck a chord with you or stuck out over the course of 30 episodes?
One of the biggest episodes that really resonated with me was when you guys had the opportunity to interview Drew Dudley. Drew is somebody that I've followed ever since I saw his TED Talk, and then I started following him on Twitter, and he's a really inspirational guy. In fact, I have some of his influences in my office. I like to, he posted after a conference, I don't even think it was his words, but he found some gem from some speaker that he saw, and it was just talking about, basically, have you done something nice for somebody else today? And have you said something nice about somebody to their face today? Have you said something nice to somebody who wasn't even in the room today? And how have you helped yourself grow, and how have you helped someone else grow? And it was just like these questions. And so I printed them out and kept them at my desk just to kind of anchor to them. And so he's definitely a very influential thinker and speaker. And number one, I thought it was an awesome get for you guys. Like, wow, that's pretty cool to be able to talk to a guy like that. But then just the way you guys were able to have a conversation that was, again, really transcendent. It wasn't just about, being put in a box of like, this is a conversation about rare disease or something like that. No, it was a conversation about life. And I just really enjoyed it. And I really enjoy, being in a leadership role myself. There was definitely some gems there that I was very, the common denominator we all have is our humanity, right? It's like so much of what you guys talk about resonates on a human level. And that to me is the coolest part of it all. It's I don't know. I just thoroughly enjoy it. Like I said earlier, it always feels like I'm recharging my battery, so to speak, when I get a chance to listen in. It reinvigorates me and keeps me focused on what's important to me. And even when you guys are doing your episodes, like, just your physical challenges, like 100 push-ups or this or that, like it's always like, I need to look at that for myself too. And I appreciate that a lot.
Tyler, you talk so much about the stuff that you've enjoyed and how it can be reinvigorating for you just to listen and recharge. Have you been able to go to iTunes and leave a review of that nature just yet?
No, I have not. I mean, let me rephrase that. Yes, I've been able to, but no, I haven't done that. I got to be honest with myself here.
Well, I just wanted to put you on the spot and ask that question.
Well, so Tyler, I have one more personal question for you.
Sure, yeah.
Suppose Sean and I were to create our own fan clubs. Would you be on Team Sean or Team Kyle? If we could put you on the spot.
There's only one correct answer here.
I mean, gosh, that's not very fair.
Sounds to me like he's saying Team Sean.
You can think that if you'd like. I mean, let's just put it this way. I work with Sean in an office often, and so I see a lot of Sean's thought process, and I'm very impressed by him always. But sometimes distance makes the heart grow fonder, if you know what I mean. So
I think that's our answer.
Yeah, Tyler has definitely seen me upset as well. So that's he's seen a side of sides of Sean that not everybody gets to enjoy.
I'm sorry to say, but everyone's seen you upset. Okay.
That was one moment.
Anybody who's seen that movie has. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Tyler, we're so thankful that you agreed to take our phone call today and just spend a few minutes with us on the show. Thank you for listening, for tuning in, and of course for helping make life better for me personally, being in the same office space day in and day out. Thank you so much for who you are and what you do, and for being a part of this show.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys very much. I appreciate your time, and keep doing good work, you guys. You got a fan in me for sure.
Okay, well, another pretty cool listener that we have on the show, Mary Nadon Scott, has been. I feel like she's been one of our biggest fans from episode 000, and I've been so excited and looking forward to this particular interview because I feel like just in the course of the podcast, I've had the opportunity to meet Mary and get to know Mary and watch her and her family on Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff. So super excited to have Mary on the show. Mary, welcome.
Oh, thank you. I'm so honored and flattered that you guys asked me to come on today. It's kind of a big deal for me. That's awesome.
All right, Mary. So, for our listeners, can you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a little about who you are.
Sure. So I'm 36. I live in Vermont with my husband and my two born-smith kids who lived with us full-time, and then I have two older step-kids. So I'm a mom of 4 total, and I'm a stay-at-home mom, which is a huge blessing to me that I get to have time for me during the day for self-care and my doctor's appointments and all of that stuff, but also to have my kids get to sporting events or whatever else that they have going on. And it also gives me a lot of time to be involved in any research trials that I can, or listen to you guys on podcasts while I'm exercising. So that's a little bit about my day-to-day life. I'm entering into the season of cabin fever, living in Vermont during the winter with snow and ice and being in a wheelchair. You don't get out and about all that much, but all of my friends and family are here, so Vermont is my home.
So, Mary, I happen to know that your family has like a maple syrup farm or something. Like, how does that work? Like, it's so crazy to me that maple syrup comes from trees. Like, you just tap a tree and like turn the spigot on it, and you get syrup out.
And eat some pancakes.
And, by the way, it's really good.
Cool.
So let us know, how does that even work?
So, in the springtime, like in February, Marchish kind of area, depending on the cold weather when it starts to warm up and thaw. So in the springtime, maple trees, which Vermont has a lot of, maple trees start to produce sap when the weather starts to get warmer. And you take this, it's called a tap. It looks like a, not really spike that you hammer into a tree, but sort of kind of. And it has like a little hole in it. And it literally, the sap drips out from the tree, and you collect it in either buckets or tubing, depending on what your maple sugar farm has. And then you collect the sap, which it takes a lot of sap to make some maple syrup, but you take the sap, which is really, really watered down, and then you boil it a lot, and eventually you get yummy maple syrup.
Mary, we wanted to ask you, since you've been listening this year, we wanted to see what your favorite moment or moments were from the podcast this year.
I think the episode that probably stands out the most as far as making really a world of a difference, a big impact for me is, I think it's episode 004. The reason why I choose that is I really hadn't been on an airplane too much in my life in general, maybe a handful of times, and I hadn't been on an airplane since my diagnosis. I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of questions, and I think some fears around it, which sounds kind of silly, but that's how I really felt. And through really listening to you guys be real and open and honest and just talking about trap flying and what worked and what didn't work and what some questions might be and all that, it really made a difference for me. It really spoke to me, and I forget how long after that episode aired. I think it was a couple of months after. FARA, the Friedreich's Ataxia Research Alliance, had a panel discussion that was going on with the FDA in DC, and I really, really wanted to go, so I was trying to convince my dad to. He's usually my road trip buddy down to CHOP, to do various drug trials and any activities I can get involved in. So I was trying to talk him into a 13-hour road trip down to D.C. with me, because being on the panel was really important, and yay, road trips, and let's do it. He's like, Mary, just fly. It's Kyle and Sean do it all the time. You can do it. And I was really anxious and scared, and so I kept listening to the podcast, and I wrote you guys asking questions, and I probably called you guys and emailed and all that stuff, and you're great and so patient, and I booked a flight, and I flew to D.C. for the first time since being in the chair, and it was great, and it was wonderful. Obviously, people in wheelchairs fly all the time, but I just hadn't. And then about 2 weeks after that trip, I flew by myself from Vermont to Denver, Colorado, to visit some family and see some friends, and so that was another big deal for me. And I believe that I would not have done that without you guys. So thank you. It makes a difference.
Wow, that is really, really meaningful.
Yeah, it's very, very heartwarming, Mary. I'm so thankful that it's just we've been on this journey together, even from a distance. It's reassuring, and I'm so grateful that you shared that story. And of course, I even mentioned we met in DC. I had forgotten that was your first time flying, and it was so neat to meet you and your dad, who your dad had flown with you at that point.
Yeah.
So that was incredible. And then to hear this, a couple weeks later, you flew by yourself. What a massive change just in the course of this last year. That is so exciting.
Yeah, it was great. It was really fun. It was still a little bit scary, the whole unknown, but I had that confidence that, that I could do it and just, live life with urgency and just do it and have fun with it and roll with the punches and laugh at yourself and just do it. It's possible.
Yeah, and I also feel like and you can, let me know if this is part of what you felt, but like when you're there with your friends in Denver and you're hanging out and you're having a good time and you're like cracking up or whatever, and you realize that it was so worth it, all the stress and the worry and everything, it was worth going through that to make this happen.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Definitely.
That is pretty awesome. I feel like, I'm getting goosebumps just hearing you talk about that story. And I feel like it's going to be really difficult to outdo that particular story.
Well, Mary, was there anything else that you wanted to say, get on record, or anything you wanted to promote or let our listeners know?
I think that I want to reiterate the fact that listening to you guys when the show is aired, it touches so many people, and people are listening, and what you always say matters, whether it's a funny joke and you guys are picking on each other, or whether you're really mad at a taxi driver that leaves you on a street curb with your wheelchair taken apart, or whether you have a guest on that you're interviewing and that person is sharing their life story. Everything matters, and it's really fun. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Mary. That starting a new year, that really gives us the confidence to attack this thing with enthusiasm and realize that, we've got a community here and we're all part of it. Me and Sean are part of it. You're part of it. And, whether that's the FA community, the disability community, or just the community of people who want to improve themselves, we're all part of it and we're all pushing it forward together. So thank you.
Definitely. You're welcome. And anytime you need me to come back and be all excited, I'm your cheerleader. I'm on board.
All right, you got it.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks for having me. You guys are
Mary.
awesome.
Thank you, Mary. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you again to Dan, Heidi, Nygel, Tyler, and Mary for sharing their thoughts and time with us. We are super excited for our second year, and we hope that you'll join the journey with us.
Our next episode will kick off year number 2. This one will feature the entire Two Disabled Dudes production team. It will feature Jake and Matt, the other two guys that really help make this show happen. In the meantime, we hope you enjoyed December and all that offers. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
See you in 2018. Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Find us online at twodisableddudes.com. And please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts.
We'd like to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Special thanks to our audio producer, Jake Tompkins, who also composed the music.
Until next time, keep living with urgency.